We have moved out of working just from waste in the waste resources sense of the word to waste in the sense of time, skills, energy, people, and sort of moving into a more broader sustainability sort of work and looking at sustainable living and lifestyles and things like how sharing skills, community cohesion and all of those aspects can be built into sustainability. In the sort of spirit of things that everyone's been talking about this morning really, we're looking at sort of values and attitudes rather than just behaviours. We recognise that just trying to change people's behaviours without getting to the underlying values that they have with respect to teachers, pupils, anybody isn't really going to work. It's about leadership in schools. If schools are really going to be embedding sustainability, that needs to be led from the senior management team, have that backing, but it also needs to be a collaborative approach with people in school. It's no good if one person in school is the eco-champion and no one else is with them supporting that. It's about this idea of being built in and not bolt on. So instead of delivering afternoon activities on a Friday or an environment day, coming in for a one-off workshop in a school, it's about trying to build a relationship there and get the schools to take ownership for doing something over a longer period of time, but supporting them to do that. And the idea about strategic action and enabling responsibility, so taking a sort of planned, thought-through approach in schools, having a policy that actually has an action plan behind it that works for the school rather than just something that's going to get dusty on a shelf. Do some investigation in the home, so they went home and did some surveys around what they could find, what was electronic equipment, where it was in the house, and then did some work around making it relevant to their lives. Because again, as we talked about this morning, it's got to be relevant to them. Although young people probably don't buy electronic equipment, they're very much the users of it. You know, what toys and gadgets do they have? Why do they want those items? What do they think's in them? What do they think happens to them once, you know, they've been used? So that very sort of explorative way. And one of the activities that we got them to do was to look at a range of different materials and see if they could pick out what different materials were in these everyday items. So I just want you now to talk to the person next to you and come up with a list of what materials you think are in these items. Did anyone come up with anything they think is a bit obscure that no one else might have come up with, or something a little bit more tricky to establish?
Gold in the mobile phone?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cold tap.
Yeah, yeah.
Little bits of nuclear things in the fire alarms.
Yeah, there's some really strange things that go on in fire alarms, as far as I understand, materials-wise, and hazardous stuff. Yeah, all of that sort of stuff, you know, the soldering, what's there, the copper wire. So it's just a really good way of getting people's enthused about what they're going to be exploring and getting that sort of hands-on investigative sort of approach to things. And we want to know what pupils already know, what's already sort of facts in their mind, and what things they want to know. And the idea behind this is that very much pupils are directing their own learning here. The teacher is the sort of facilitator and the aid for that, but and helping them to explore, to get to the bottom of what they know through questioning. That's really vitally important in this. But that pupils are really investigating themselves. If they have particular goals and things that they want to research, find out as part of being involved in this work, then it's very much pupil directed, and that's the idea behind action learning, the key sort of principle there, that it's not us giving them a research project, it's them coming up with their own research projects to make it much more personal to them.
I thought we would encourage the pupils to bring in an electrical item from home, either something that's broken or that they're not using anymore. And we wanted them to start mapping their own electrical item and investigating maybe what happened before they bought it or had it at home, and what could happen afterwards, and get them thinking about a personal story for their object.
So we thought, get them to bring in an item of their own, maybe use an electrical item like a mobile phone or even like a light bulb, get them to take it apart, and then start sort of looking at what the different materials that they're bringing out, and then to kind of share with the class. So a lot of interactivity.
Yeah. Okay. Because we were going back rather than going forward, we were looking at a specific material, say the copper in the wiring, and then we were going to look at how it is sourced, where it comes from, and look at the impacts that might have on the environment that it's sourced from, and get the children to choose whatever material it was. and get them to look at where it's come from, the impact it has on their environment, whether or not they can have an effect by, you know, recycling.
And we thought about actually getting them to bring in items that they could then take apart, that they actually wanted to recycle, but then maybe doing an art project that, you know, they could build something out of plastic or gloves or something like that, and then take that to recycle as a kind of temporary art installation.
Yeah.
And exploring that, so using meters to see how much power is being used, turning things off, turning them back on, and then comparing it with the amount of power that's being used elsewhere in the world, and trying to prioritise, give them a limit, and they choose what items they're going to use to keep within that limit and when they're going to use them.
It's through this guy here, who was created to represent how much we waste we have in a lifetime. And then explore in here what different things the pupils can see. So there's the hobs, there's a fridge in there, satellite dishes, there are mice, there are keyboards, mice as in computer mice. So it's a good way for them to be able to see how much waste they have and look at the stuff that's actually there. And also it's quite a fun sort of arty way. I know some of you were talking about the arts and that sort of creative way of capturing their imagination. About exploring, so connecting up knowledge from different disciplines and different areas. So, you know, the idea that learning shouldn't just be in isolation about one thing, we should be able to pull in lots of different elements of that, thinking in this sort of joined up way. What do they already understand? What do they already have knowledge of? Transferring from one subject to another. And also this idea that they're making that relevant to their own lives. You know, it needs to be something that they can understand and grasp for them. And again, that's a message that came out from this morning. Although they're not the purchasers of WE items, they are the users of them. So it's making that link to their lives. So one of the activities we did for this that we might get you all to do in a moment is to look at the product life cycles. You talked about this in the previous stage, and lots of activities have different crossover amongst the different stages. Is to look at the life cycle of an item, and then can you relate that to life cycles of other animals, life cycles of humans, so you're making connections with science there. Looking at some investigative work about reducing WE, their sorts of ideas. And the WE recycling kind of stuff. There's a presentation that goes with that, and again, that's all in the resources that come together. But you were talking about local recycling facilities, finding out what's available to them in their local area. So again, making that relevance to their lives. And you know, children, I don't know why it's so exciting, but children love to regale stories of the day they went to the dump and what they took there and what they found and what they saw. So it's again that relevance to their lives. And the idea is that, you know, in an ideal world, teachers would take this on to help pupils to do this, that it's not just something that's planned out and never gets done. It is something that actually takes place. That's so important as a sort of learning experience. And in here, there's also something for our idea. So I'd like you to rank them to decide which one you think is the most important or effective campaign tool, and come up with an idea of your own, how you might campaign for WE recycling. So
not bringing things in and then creating things, or but then taking the things home again, so you're not left with a load of WE equipment at school, you know, or have somebody come in to take it away once you've done things with it. Just, you know, just a focus day to really hone in and get the local community involved and the parents involved. We found those days have been really effective. And they're one-offs, but if they're part of a more 1 week, 2 week project, it means it's more meaningful for the children.
Yeah.
Whether you want to affect the children or the public, you know, at large. So presentation of at the school assembly for affecting the wider school community, and then we went for kind of difficult to place them. We liked leaflets and giving them out on High Street and display at a fete or Sunday market.
We actually said if it had come from the children and came from the heart, actually it would be more effective whatever it was.
Absolutely.
But can I just say, working for a local authority, that obviously household waste sites are the places that we steer them to. We did a campaign back in February where all the schools were given an assembly script and an opportunity to take part in a competition. And once a week for a month. Everybody was given a label and they put basically contact number and name on a wee item, took it to the household waste site, of which we have 9 across the 2 parts of Cheshire. And once a week they took items out, and then they took like an overall winner, and the winner won a wee cane, which was donated in fact by somebody else. So there's a little bit of a link there with the 2 ways of spending a week. But it did raise the awareness of the fact that that's where you could take your household waste.
Our idea was a kind of, it started off as a kind of video viral thing, then there was lots of discussion around data protection, etc., etc. So we kind of come up with an idea of getting local, say 10 plus local schools to kind of create a cluster and do a kind of viral advertising thing, but with a smaller, a bigger community than perhaps usually they might connect with, but not out to the big wide world where it might be a bit too scary. So we thought actually a presentation in the school assembly followed up with a bunch of kids with t-shirts and a performance in a school, actually to their peers would be, quite an interesting.
And the idea is that, in an ideal world, teachers would take this on to help pupils to do this, that it's not just